things at once? No, we're not talking about Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Kelsey's Pfizer commercial. No, a little boy has been accused of doubling up on racism.
Welcome back to Azimuth Podcast. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Kimberly McNabb, and I'm Barrett McNabb. So here we go. We have a boy that is shockingly wearing blackface, clearly causing an uproar. And, that's just it. It's now all the proof is done and just is what it is. He's doing blackface. Well, a former New York Daily News reporter who is now a journalist for Deadspin wrote an article claiming that a 9-year-old Kansas City Chiefs fan, Holden Armada's headdress and tomahawk chop, as well as his blackface, hates on black people and Native Americans all at once. He wrote, "It takes a lot of to disrespect two people at one time."
Well, his mother responded that Phillips picked the side profile showing only the black half of his face to create division. Now, for you sports fans, the team colors are red and black. And to boot, the boy's grandfather sits on the board of the Chumash Native American tribe in California.
Yeah, as we can see in the second photograph, he's clearly wearing red and black, and he is a diehard Kansas City Chiefs fan. And
he's a cute kid, too.
And he's a really cute kid. But Phillips doubled down and still said the NFL needed to outlaw the chop and change the team's name. But there's no retraction of the article as of this time. Now, he had done a tweet and had gotten lambasted by conservative media groups, and he did take that tweet down, but the article still remains. And I mean, here we go. I mean, this is just trying to create a problem where none exists, because he was even aware that there were other photographs that had the red side of his face, showing.
I think he's just jealous of the headdress, because that is not something you get at Halloween Spirit. That is a legit headdress. And if you've ever been in one of these souvenir shops with Native American, jewelry and whatnot, that stuff's expensive. This is a legit headdress.
Absolutely. And, the fact that he is Native American, and is clearly wearing, things that are to his culture, and his father's culture and grandfather's culture. I mean, to call this out is just absolutely disgusting. And again, the mother, we'll put some tweets that the mother had said about this, but, to try and destroy a 9-year-old's life with something like this, it's just absolutely despicable. And this guy, Phillips, has a reputation for doing virtue signaling on racism, and he just doesn't get it.
I guess he's never been to a Braves game either.
Yeah,
because they do the chop there too.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to talk about blackface and making racism, then every single Raiders, including when they were in Oakland and now when they're in Las Vegas, every Raider that paints their face black, is now a racist as well. They're not supporting their team, and you have you can't take the context of all of the chains and dog collar spikes and things like that they're wearing. Nope. Racism. And if they're, painting the other half of their face with silver, then they're also making fun of robots, right?
He should also go through some of Jimmy Kimmel's old bits as well.
Right, or Joy from The View. So anyway, as you're looking at, what some of racism truly is, this is not it. But apparently this journalist, use that term loosely, is willing to die on a sword on this. But, we've had numerous instances where media jump on things without getting the full information. And it's journalistic integrity that is at, really the dispute here, because he didn't do any research. His editors didn't do any research. They just wanted a quick story and to ruin this 9-year-old's life. And where's the integrity? I mean, if you're going to be a journalist, where's the integrity?
Yeah. And, if it actually had been a case of racism, blame the parents, not a 9-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. But, here we are. This is a child who definitely didn't expect to be in the media, in the news media. Definitely, is just wanting to root for his team. And there's even photographs of him posing with the opposite team, with the opposing team. So they loved it as well. The cheerleaders of the opposite team. So it's just amazing that this day and age we're searching for problems, and I think that is a problem in and of itself.
Yep, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for watching this segment of Azimuth Podcast. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in. Can dolphins win the war in Ukraine for Russia? Welcome back to Azimuth Podcast. I'm Kimberly McNabb, and with me is my husband, Barrett McNabb. So today we are reporting on Daily Mail's article titled, Putin's Dolphin Warfare Squadron is washed away by storm that hit Crimea. So on Monday and Tuesday, a record storm hit Crimea. And do you care to tell us what happened there, Barrett?
Yeah, absolutely. So some maritime defensive fortifications were wiped away. We can see a before, and then we'll wait a couple of seconds and you can see the after effects of the storm. And along with these defensive fortifications to stop Ukrainian sea drones from blowing up ships of the Russian Navy, they also had these pens that had maritime dolphins that are used in warfare. And the United States has done this as well since the 1950s. Oftentimes they're used for two purposes. One, they can be used to lay mines where they put a mine on the snout of the dolphin. The dolphin will swim and then will attach these underwater explosives to naval ships so they can be detonated later. But also they're used in a defensive way in which they have dolphins swimming around the ports looking for enemy frogmen, whether it be Navy SEALs, whether it be Ukrainian special forces. So they could do two things. They can do two things. They can come back and report to their handlers that they've identified somebody in the water, but they can also do direct action. And here's a photograph of a dolphin that has been outfitted with an underwater gun that the dolphin can actually fire underwater and hit the intruder. Now they can do this, but also dolphins are well known to attack sharks and even divers by themselves just by ramming them with their snout.
I've seen some reports of some people getting attacked just swimming, but
right.
Yeah, the pictures with them being outfitted, it's like some BDM bondage type of leather thing going around.
Kind of reminds me of Hannibal Lecter as well.
Yeah. I laughed for probably 20 minutes when I first read this article because, when I think dolphins, I'm just old enough to remember the show Flipper being on the rerun circuit on Nick at Night. And so I got to see a little bit of it. And, when people talk about how smart dolphins are, they're usually video clips of them like playing with balls, doing SeaWorld kind of stuff. And
we actually swam with dolphins.
Yeah, in Hawaii, it was one of my favorite memories. So you have two dolphins, one under each foot, and I'm so clumsy that I was like, oh my God, I'm totally going to mess this up. But miraculously, they got me standing up, and it was just so cool. And
we'll put a couple pictures.
One was actually what's called a wolfin, and what that is there is a male false killer whale, and they're just a little bit bigger than a regular bottlenose dolphin, and the female is a bottlenose dolphin, and so that's just one of my favorite memories. So that's what I picture. I'm going to get someone killed.
Right. Well, I mean, it's amazing that what people do with animals as they try and train them for warfare purposes. One of the very first self-guided missiles was actually had a chicken. And sometimes was substituted with a pigeon inside, and it had a display that had crosshairs in it. And it was a game that they played with these birds that every time there was a silhouette of a ship, and they were able to hit left, right, up, and down in order to change the trajectory of their vantage point, the ship would stay in the center. As long as the ship was in the center and they clicked the right buttons, a food pellet would come out. And so they would train these birds in order to peck left, right, up, down in order to keep objects in the center, and then they would get a food pellet. And then they would put them in rockets. And they would actually launch these, and the birds would guide themselves. Obviously, it's a one-way trip, but the birds would guide themselves, and they'd detonate these rockets. And this is one of the first examples of self-guided missiles, having an animal doing it.
So it seems like the Ruthless podcast is accurate in that we are at war with the animal kingdom.
We are. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm always amazed when I see people like with pet chickens and they're like holding them, or they want to take them onto a plane or something. I'm like, those bastards are mean. I kind of grew up on a farm. My babysitter had, doves and chickens and cows and horses. And I would always just throw the feed in the chicken coop and run away, because my babysitter's son would taunt the chickens and come out just bloodied from being pecked and scratched and whatnot. So somewhat of a phobia of chickens. I'm not going to lie.
Sure.
They're mean. And you just proved my point.
Yeah, exactly, because they can blow up ships. But yeah, so these dolphins, what they're being used for is the Ukrainian Special Forces has kind of upped their game and are doing maritime operations where they're being launched and then coming up on shore. And so Putin is wanting these dolphins to either kill or alert their handlers on what's going on. And it's amazing. And like I said earlier, the U.S. has had a program like this as well. I don't know exactly how active it is, but I do remember seeing photographs of this type of program in the 1950s. But the thing is, these are bred dolphins, so they're not wild dolphins.
Yeah, they were in captivity, so they are on the loose. So some people are concerned, whether or not they can survive out in the wild. But, the conspiracy side of me goes, these are Putin's dolphins. You mean he trained them for warfare, but not how to survive?
Right. I think instinct is going to kick in. I think they're going to remain a pod, and you'll start seeing them. But I'm pretty sure they know how to use their sonar. They know how to, catch fish and things like that. I think they're going to be okay because, again, dolphins are really smart. But this is just one of those stories that just caught our eye, and we had to bring it to you. So thank you for watching this segment of Asma's podcast, and please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.
When you think about it, all law, all legislation is about the restriction of freedom. That's exactly what we're doing here, is we are restricting freedom, but we're doing it for the common good. You will see throughout our Constitution, yes, you have rights, but they are restricted for the common good. Everything needs to be balanced. And if your views on other people's identities go to make their lives unsafe, insecure, and cause them such deep discomfort that they cannot live in peace, then I believe that it is our job as legislators to restrict those freedoms for the common good.
Wow. Well, welcome back to Asma Podcast. I'm Barrett McNabb, and I'm here with my beautiful wife, Kimberly McNabb. And Ireland has proposed a new hate speech bill. You can't make this stuff up.
No. It must have been casual Friday for a senator. But anyway, Irish Senator Joe O'Reilly defends this hate speech bill with violent attacks start with jokes. I don't think the Unabomber ever had a bit in a comedy club. 9/11 hijackers didn't exactly headline at the Laugh Factory, Kandahar.
I don't think so.
No. And I've never seen a riot outside of an SNL studio. And maybe I missed a spike in BLM-style riots after an Adam Carolla tour. I missed that one.
Well, I mean, here we go. This is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Obviously, this is the Irish version of that and not Ronald Reagan. But, here we go. Yes, we have protections. You have protections, and we've granted you protections. We've even made them as part of our Constitution. But we're going to take those away to help you. I mean, this is really just absolutely absurd. I mean, if you look at the United States, I know there's a lot of criticism in the United States from a variety of people. A lot of times on the left, they're not proud to be American. They're hate our country, but they do not appreciate the value that you have in living in actually a free society like the United States of America. You would think that Western Europe would have freedom, and they say, well, they're a free country, but if you look at the laws in England and the laws in France and the laws in the Netherlands and the laws in Ireland, you do not have the same freedoms that you do in the United States. You can criticize anybody you want in the United States.
Yeah, you can't do that elsewhere.
But you can't do that elsewhere.
And if you don't believe us, just ask someone who lives in England or Canada, and they will tell you that despite the flaws they see in us, they envy our freedom of speech.
Absolutely. I mean, even just a few months ago, there was a woman that was silently praying just in her own mind, not saying any words, outside of an abortion clinic, and she was arrested for her thoughts.
This was in the UK?
This is in the UK, and I mean, she was silently praying. She wasn't bothering anybody. She was just looking down at her shoes, and she was arrested.
She could have been looking at her shoelaces.
She could have been doing anything. However, the government inferred that she was praying outside of the abortion clinic, and they arrested her for her thoughts, not for any offending behavior. So, I mean, this is not outside the realm of possibility that government comes in and just truly chooses what you can and what you cannot think, say, and do. And obviously, there's, in the good interest to prevent crime, to say that murder is illegal, but to have thought police do a little minority report pre-crime and arresting people for pre-crime is a little, I think, out of the realm of.
I think they're more interested in not offending non-citizens. I mean, these people they have no obligation to, or anyone else that breaks the law.
Yeah, that's just true. I mean, banning free speech makes it easier to centralize the government. Countries like North Korea and China, you just can't criticize the government. I mean, you get disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and you go to jail or you'll just get shot. And so
or sent to re-education camp.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're just sad that that countries that people admire are doing these type of restrictions on free speech, and social media is kind of helping them sometimes. I think we've seen some reports where there's collusion between the Biden administration and some social media about restricting speech, and that's just horrible. I mean, that's why it's enshrined in our Bill of Rights to have freedom of speech, because it's important. And if you try and take it away, there's nothing good that comes out of it.
And no getting it back.
Yeah. So here's a tweet from Conor McGregor.
Yes. Former UFC fighter Conor McGregor is reportedly under investigation for a series of tweets criticizing his government officials. He slammed Ireland's Prime Minister Leo Varadkar for comments he made on social media about a hostage taken by Hamas. Varadkar had described the 9-year-old released from Hamas as a child who was lost, has now been found and returned.
I mean, when you say lost, going to a grocery store and you're not paying attention, and your child walks down aisle 7 and you go down aisle 8 and you're looking for each other, that's lost.
Yes.
I mean, that's lost. I mean, when you take a jacket and you put it down and you forget it and it comes back and it's lost, and you go to the lost and found to get it back, that's lost.
Yes, being taken by savages is being taken by savages.
Yeah, I mean, being kidnapped is not lost. Being kidnapped is abducted and
it's traumatized for life.
Exactly. So McGregor responded to that tweet. She was abducted by an evil terrorist organization. And the mixed martial artist also wrote that what is with you and your government and your paid for media affiliates constantly downplaying and attempting to repress horrific acts that happen to children. You are a disgrace. The day after stabbing children in Ireland, not one paper had it on their front cover, and we will not regret. And so he's a native Dubliner. And so he's a 5-time mixed martial artist. So he's very famous. He's got a great platform, and
he spoke the truth.
And so now his government is investigating him for how dare he criticize the government. This is just absolutely absurd and not the route that that should be going down.
Exactly. Well, he also posted on X his response to riots of outrage after 3 children and a woman were stabbed at a primary school, which is their elementary school. And the perpetrator is this Algerian that came 20 years ago. He was supposed to be deported. He fought it. He stayed. This was not the first time he was caught with a knife. He got, let go. And then he stabs, these 3 young children. I think they're like 5 and 6. And, he was diagnosed recently with a brain tumor, some acquaintances of his said. And I can only imagine who paid for those scans.
Socialized medicine.
Yes. And his acquaintances said that he had been acting erratically lately. Well, I'm sorry, but unfortunately, there are a lot of people that had brain tumors, whether they were successfully removed or not. I haven't exactly seen a lot of news articles saying, oh, they started stabbing people.
Right.
No, this is a morally bankrupt person, an evil person, to stab a 5-year-old. They weigh like 40 pounds. I mean, they're a fraction of his size. They're just going to school. They're not doing anything to you. No, this is an evil person that has no business being in your country.
Yeah, I mean, another senator said that this is why we did the jokes, because apparently this hate speech starts with jokes, right? And so it was due to these jokes and due to these statements and due to these actions that led the children to be put into the position that they were in for them to get stabbed. And that logic does not make any sense at all. In the South, we would say that dog don't hunt. That's the old. They asked for it, and that's just the wrong answer. And I think anybody you talk to would say that that's the wrong answer. But you're not enforcing laws, and when you don't enforce laws that are already on the books, rather than inventing new laws, then you run into these problems. Your immigration laws, if you're not enforcing them, and The danger is with Ireland being part of the EU, and he now has an Irish passport after 20 years, right?
Go off and do it somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, he can go anywhere in the EU and go to a country, and so this is just absolutely tragic. I mean, we have Kate Steinle in San Francisco in July 2015. The perpetrator was acquitted of murder, but he was held on gun charges, and he had been deported 7 times, I believe.
Yeah, about that many times. I find interesting, he was acquitted on murder that happened in broad daylight with her own father right there. They acquitted him of murder, but they're keeping him on gun charges.
Yeah. And if you
how dare you? We don't care about the murder part, but the gun charges, we care about that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just absolutely absurd.
And you get these problems when you don't enforce the law. You decriminalize everything. Someone, even in small town Georgia, where I'm from, someone I'm very close to just went through an awful divorce, and she got the house in the divorce, and he showed up on the property, and she called the cops, and his car was there, and they're like, well, he's going to have to come back and get his car. And she said, why aren't you taking him, making him take the car? Well, it smelled a little alcohol in his breath. He was drunk driving. You're going to escort him somewhere and let him come back off when he's not supposed to be there at all. I mean, it's just everything's decriminalized, and it's so hard as a parent to teach your kids that there are consequences when adults around them aren't getting consequences. It's impossible. But back to McGregor. In the tweet, McGregor made a hint at a possible government run. And after seeing his tweets and the positions that he holds, I kind of like this. So, and I think he would do really well running for a government post. He has name recognition. He has money. He clearly has the fighting spirit. He has a clear backdrop / stance on the issues. So you know where he stands. I hate these mealy-mouthed politicians. They're talking to one group of press this way and another group this way, or, the pressure really gets on. They change their tune. I think he's very clear on where he stands. Thank goodness. And then, if they do prosecute / persecute him for these tweets, like Trump here in the United States, depending on who you ask,
he might get more popular.
Supporters will see him as a martyr, and he'll get more popularity. And then, as a parent, I also like the idea that he has his 4th kid coming right now, per his X account. So to me, when you have children, you have skin in the game for what the future is going to look like. And so personally, I think that's a good thing. That's another bonus for him.
Yeah, I agree. But one has to ask, why? Why do we care? Ireland is over there.
Yeah, far away.
I mean, but it's because we're all intertwined, and what happens in other countries gets tried to be brought over here. Whether it's single payer health, whether it's this, that, or the other.
Yeah, one day it's Britain or the UK, then it's Canada, then it's California, and then the next thing you know, it shows up in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so we need to be able to hold politicians accountable, and we need to make sure that that hopefully this proposed law does not get passed, does not go into effect. But for us over here, again, we need to be able to have our freedom of speech so that we can have the town square and to hold our politicians accountable and to criticize and let politicians know what it is that we actually want. It's not necessarily the 3-person poll that you took that 90% of Americans feel that this is the way to go, and you only interviewed 4 people or 3 people or whatever. You need to hear all of us.
Yes. Because without it, politicians, anybody in public office or well-known status like celebrities, they tend to only talk to each other and don't get out amongst the riffraff or whatever, and so they kind of forget what real people problems are, or the effects of policies or things that they make or things they say. And, I think officials need to be more concerned about enforcing the laws that are already on the books, God forbid, do their jobs. And then maybe they won't need to worry about what critical right-wingers say about them.
Well, it's also difficult for politicians to centralize power when the ability for the public to speak out and bring things to the light of day. And I think that's super important as well.
Exactly. Now, on a religious note, in the Jewish faith, the Talmudic law is not as concerned with presenting the, quote, official point of view, aka what an authoritarian government says.
Okay.
It's more concerned with arguing the pros and cons of each issue. And you know what? Sometimes you are not going to like one of those, the pros or the cons, but both are necessary in hearing. And how are you supposed to fix problems if you can't talk about them?
Right, and get multiple points of view.
Exactly. And, also, as horrific as all the anti-Semitism that's being exposed is, it is revealing the core of what some of these people are, and it's just shocking what it is. But without free speech, you cannot get to the core of what a person is.
Right.
Because they'll never
now
speak, or they'll be afraid to speak.
Now we know who they are as well.
Yes. And, with freedom of speech, we clear up misconceptions, we learn about differences, or hammer out and actually strengthen our own arguments. And that is just beyond important to me.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this concludes this segment of Azimuth Podcast. Please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in. Today, we have another request for another Oliver Anthony hit, Makin Payments.
I'm Barrett McNabb, and I'm with my wife, Kimberly McNabb. And again, this is just another viewer request. And we're so happy to get this engagement with our, podcast family. And thank you so much for sending these in. This is a really cool video. And there were two that we found. One actually had his face and him singing into the camera, and the other was just a static picture of the silhouette of a dog. And so we felt that
we want to see his face.
Yeah, we want to see his face. And so here we go.
Some folks want a big old house with a HOA, a cozy little office job where they sit all day. Wanna make payments on a brand new car, try to live some life that they can't afford. Well, I wanna be way the hell away from that on an old dirt road way off the map.
Wow.
Yep. So I notice he's saying every good thing comes with a cost, which is probably one of the top rules of life for me. I mean, he mentions, big house, but it comes with an HOA, and not many people would argue that an HOA is a good thing. I've seen way too many Reddit stories complaining about HOAs. And then he says, a cozy job, but you sit all day. And there are many, many health articles out there saying how bad sitting all day is for your health. And then he mentions a new car, but you can't afford, and goodness knows the last few years trying to afford a new car.
Trying to afford anything.
Goodness, yes. Never in my wildest dreams as an accountant would I imagine that, old cars, used cars
would
might cost as much. Yeah, would actually go up in value. It's insane.
And with you being a CPA, you always, the cars are a depreciating asset. And this is
Depreciating,
the one
appreciating
time
the
where
second you drive it off the lot.
the one time where CPAs were wrong, and the prices
Well,
went
the
up.
market's wrong.
Well, this is really interesting when he's talking about the job. You can kind of get into the mindset of working and having life pass you by. I mean, we've seen some viral videos of young Generation Z that are now coming into the workforce, getting their first 9-to-5 jobs, and how stressful it is, and
They were not prepared.
They were not prepared, and they have to get to work. They do their work. They come home. They're exhausted, and they get up and do it again. And that's kind of a welcome to the real world.
Yeah.
But when he's talking about trade-offs, right? So you're trading your time for money, and it's going to take a toll on you. And so that's kind of what he's talking about. The HOA comments, you were right on the money. I haven't really heard too many good things about HOAs. Luckily, we don't have one in our area, but he's able to speak the truth, and that's one of the things that we love about Oliver Anthony is, one, he's made the world slow down just a little bit, but two, he's speaking his truth, and it resonates so well. So let's continue on with the song.
I ain't got time for all that crap. You can keep it. All you need is a couple good dogs and a shotgun and a house in the woods and a truck that'll run. I'll spend my days working in the sun if I have to, 'cause I've come to find that
Okay. And that's the end of this particular song. The 4-minute one that had the silhouette of the dog, it just repeats these lyrics.
Yeah, it repeats basically that part. There's one line where he'll, add something. He'll reference Petersburg, where he is and how green it is, but the essence of the song is the same. So, again, he mentions the basic necessities. It's just not stressing over things that aren't necessary.
He's got his dogs.
Yes,
Need your dogs.
exactly. And then at the very last few words I noticed, it said, "because I've come to find." That kind of tells me that he has lived the hustle and bustle lifestyle. And he's like, you know what? It's not worth the stress.
Yeah, and it never is. I mean, when you look at the overarching theme of his music, it's his faith, it's his family, it's his friends, it's his dogs, it's freedom, and that's what he's looking for. He's looking for freedom. And whether it be freedom from addiction, whether it be freedom
the
from
$8 million contract he said no to.
Yeah, I mean, he just wants to be free and get out of all of that hustle and bustle. He just wants to live, and that's something that I think that resonates with each and every one of you. I know it does with us.
Yep, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for bringing this song to us. We love the fact that our podcast family is making recommendations and wanting to do videos, and keep them coming, because we're more than happy to oblige, because it's something that you want to see. And we only have a few days left before we get into December, where we can get to his new music. He's releasing 2 new songs, and we're super excited. So thank you so much for tuning into Azimuth Podcast, and stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all of the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.